everybody, Eric and Katie here with MountModernLife.com. We hope you guys are doing great today. And now, whether you're just now looking into starting an RV adventure or you're already into picking your own rig, we thought it was important to kind of touch base on why we chose a Class A for our journey and if we'd take the same approach in the future. Now, as always, we are going to highlight what we came out with on YouTube this past month, as well as the design vibes that were featured over on the website.
Yes, but before we get into that, I actually have a really exciting announcement that I want to make, and that's that I will be speaking at Full-Time Freedom Week this year, which happens in November. Now, if you're not familiar with it, Full-Time Freedom Week is an online event all geared towards RVers. This is the third year that they're putting it on, and there's going to be over 30 speakers talking about all sorts of RV topics, from, how to pick an RV to RVing with pets or making money on the road or solar or boondocking tips. I mean, there's just so much that's going to be going on. It's going to be really awesome. I will be talking about some tips on how to get started with an RV renovation or a design project. So I really hope you'll check it out. We'll leave a link in the description box where you can click over and register for a free ticket, because you can actually access all of the content for free the day that it comes out. But if you're not able to watch it that day, you can always upgrade your ticket so that you can access it at a later date. But anyways, really exciting. Really hope you'll check it out.
Yeah, it's super exciting. I mean, if there was a resource like this when we started our journey, it would have saved a ton of time. Instead of going down like a million different rabbit holes, just giving us a little bit of direction at the least.
Plus it's video content, so it's going to be really fun to watch.
Yeah, super exciting. But anyway, let's go ahead and dive into why Katie and I chose a Class A RV to start our journey.
All right, so once we decided to take on the nomadic lifestyle, it was all about figuring out the best RV option for us. And some of those options we were looking at were getting a tiny house, getting a pull behind trailer or an Airstream, getting a fifth wheel, or getting a motorized RV such as an A, B, or a C class. Now, with a tiny house, that was probably my absolute favorite in the beginning, just because style-wise, I think they're awesome and beautiful. But there was a lot of rules and regulations that made it confusing, on top of I wasn't really sure how easy it would be to travel cross country with a tiny home. And on top of that, the biggest issue was probably that we did not have a heavy duty truck to pull it. And with our Jeep, if we would have traded it in at the time, we would have been upside down quite a bit. And so it just didn't seem like a very smart move. So tiny house got X'd out.
Exactly. And then we move on to the travel trailers or pull behinds or Airstreams. And right from the very get-go, they all have big giant X's through them, because it would involve also getting a heavy-duty truck so that we could pull them. And on top of that, with the Airstream, there's no slide outs, and we knew that we wanted that extra square footage provided by slide outs. So those are out.
Yes. Now, with the fifth wheel, those should have been out immediately because we didn't have a truck. But as soon as I walked into one of those, I'd be like, ooh, maybe we can make this work. Maybe we should trade in our car. Because as soon as I would walk into a fifth wheel, the ceilings were so high and they just felt super spacious and very, very residential. And I could just have so much fun renovating one. I just got really excited. I'm just even getting tongue-tied thinking about
She almost had me convinced that it was time to get a truck.
Yeah, toy haulers. I was like, oh my gosh. I would just get super excited every time I would walk into one. So yeah, the problem with that, again, we were going to need a truck. It really just didn't make sense. It probably wouldn't have been the smartest move, and we were trying to be smart with our decision. So that got X'd out.
Which brings us on to the motorized versions, the A, B, and C class. And with the B class, while they're really nice, they were a little bit too small for what we were going for, especially coming from 17 to 1,800 square feet to go down to that size. But then on top of that, we knew that we definitely wanted to renovate and really create our own home on wheels. And with it being so small like that, we didn't think we could really, get our entire vision out there. So the B class got X'd out.
Yeah, the main thing too with the B class though is that it didn't have slide outs, and I had never traveled in an RV before, and I think I was if we were going to be going from a home into an RV, I wanted something that was going to be a little bit bigger. So anyway, so that brought it down to basically the A and the C class, and Eric was all gung-ho for the C classes. He kept trying to get me in them, and they're great, they're awesome, but whenever I would walk in, it just felt a lot darker because of the cab area, and I really wanted the big windshield if we were going to be driving the RV. And then on top of that, we really wanted something that was more between 30 and 35 feet. And most of the C classes were probably around 20 to 25 feet that we were finding. So that kind of then brought it to the A class.
And then as soon as we started walking into a few A classes, you could tell immediately that there was a lot more light coming in through the front with the bigger windshields. And then how many more that we were finding in between that 30 and 35 foot range, plus the slide outs that we were finding in those units as well. So at this point, after going through everything, and we did look at a lot of these options, and I think we just kind of narrowed it down that what checked off the most boxes was the Class A.
Yeah. So once we made that decision, we then had to research further to figure out what make and model to get,
which we'll dive into now.
All right, so Kobe's decided to join us today. But anyway, once we decided we wanted to get an A class, it was then all about doing research to figure out the make and the model. And goodness, I had no idea how many freaking manufacturers and models were out there. But what I ended up doing, there's a lot, and there's probably more now. I mean, this was back in like 2015. So what I was doing is I actually was going into RV forums and I was reading owners' experiences about different makes and models. Or if I was looking at a specific one, I would throw the question out there and ask people of their experience. And from doing all of that, I was able to narrow it down to a few of our favorite manufacturers to kind of dive deeper into. And I believe that was Fleetwood, Tiffin, Winnebago, or Itasca, I'm not really sure how you say it, Holiday Rambler, and Newmar. So once we kind of narrowed it down to those, we were then able to kind of determine, are we going to want gas or diesel?
Which we ultimately decided to go with a gas RV, and we are going to be coming out with a video here in the future that's going to dive into more of kind of what we considered in making that decision. But then also our next decision was that we decided we wanted to go with a pre-owned model. We were looking at models between 5 and 10 years old. We didn't want to get too close to the 10-year-old max because we were a little nervous because we'd read all over the place that if your RV is 10 years old, no RV park's going to let you stay. Maybe not that extreme. And the line definitely isn't that hard in the sand, but it was something we were a little nervous about beginning with. And then on top of that, we had done a lot of research and read that generally when you buy a new RV, in the first year or two, there can be a lot of kinks that you need to work out, and you might have to take it in, and it might need to be serviced for a while. So we wanted something where those kinks had been worked out.
Yeah. And then on top of that, there was another reason. What was it? Oh, yeah. It was at the plumbing and electrical. We didn't know if it was going to really matter if it was over 10 years old, but we figured if we stayed within 10 years, hopefully there weren't going to be any big issues that we'd have to do since we didn't have a whole lot of experience with those types of things. So, and another important thing, budget. That's kind of important because, when we were going pre-owned, it was definitely going to save us a lot more money to get more bang for our buck, I think. So,
absolutely.
Yeah.
So then on top of that, it was moving on to the floor plan and kind of what we wanted out of the space.
Yeah. All right, so when it came to the floor plan, there were a lot of different options, and we felt like the best decision, even before this point, was actually getting out and test driving different RVs and getting a feel for how they felt inside and kind of learning more about what we liked and didn't like, and going to a lot of RV shows and that sort of thing. So that really helped us kind of really narrow it down to the makes and the more of what we wanted out of the floor plan. And from there we made a list of what we really wanted, prioritizing what was really important and then what was maybe more negotiable. But some of those things where we really wanted full body paint on the outside. And one of the main reasons for that is because we felt like once the RV was older than 10 years, if it had the full body paint, it might look newer. So maybe we would still be able to get into some of those RV parks that, you're not supposed to get into. But we're actually now over 10 years old and we've never had that issue. So I don't know. Yeah. Maybe it did work.
And if you are looking for your first RV right now, us bringing up this RV park rule about being over 10 years, don't get too concerned about it. Do your research and look into it as much as you can. But like Katie said, we've never had a problem.
I think it depends on the RV park. And I think at the same time, the kind of place that maybe is going to be that stingy, we maybe wouldn't stay there anyway. But I think it's more about just, if your RV looks clean, maybe. I don't know. But anyway, so there was that, and then we really wanted a washer and dryer, and we wanted a one-piece windshield versus the one that had like the line in the middle of it. We definitely wanted a separate bathroom. We didn't want it to be open to the master bedroom or to the living room. And then we wanted the dinette booth across from the sofa so that we could kind of reconfigure the TV area. Because in a lot of the older ones, it seemed like the TV was always in an awkward position, and we wanted to be able to get cozy and watch the TV across from the sofa. Was there anything else?
Nope, I think that was our main wants. A couple of them didn't make it, like the washer and dryer. That didn't make it. This RV doesn't have a washer and dryer.
Yeah. Well, the thing is once we had like a list, so then what I would do is I actually went to those manufacturers' websites and I went to their archive of brochures, and I actually saved all the brochures for the different years, for the different models. And that kind of helped me too. And then I would always keep an eye out for what was maybe within like, I don't know, a couple 100-mile radius of us. So whenever there was like a floor plan that was like kind of in, the scope of what we thought we wanted, we would go check it out. And from there, it would kind of give us a better sense of if we did like that or if we didn't like it. But we also had a checklist, and it was just things to kind of look for, as far as water damage or, delamination or whatever. So when we would go and we just started going out and test driving the models and the makes that we liked and kind of narrowing it down from there. Now with pre-owned, it's always kind of hard because it just depends on what's available. So
I mean, in this, it is a big purchase decision. You know what I mean? So spending that extra time to really go out and check out a lot of different models. I mean, I can't remember exactly how long we were looking, but it was quite a while. We were looking, and we were testing a whole bunch of different options, and we were driving them, but we just didn't want to pull the trigger until we felt comfortable. It was our baby.
Well, I'm going to say that you need to be really careful because it's easy to let that excitement wash over you. There was like this one, I don't know if it was a Pace Arrow or a Southwind, because those were like some of our favorites from Fleetwood that we found. And it was like so beautiful and like this one huge slide out, and we're like, oh, this could work. But it definitely had delamination, which is where the water, I think, was like ruining the walls. I mean, it was obvious. And we were just like, maybe we can make it work. And it's like, no. Because even talking to the owner, that was one that was, I think, an owner one. And I could just tell he wasn't really being super honest with us. So we had to really let go of that excitement and be like, yeah, that's not a good idea. And then we were test driving another RV at a dealership, and it just broke down in the middle of the test drive. And we were still like, maybe we'll still get it. Maybe we'll get a great deal. It's like, wait a second, this thing just broke down in a test drive. This probably isn't the best RV to buy. But anyway, so just, it's a good idea to know what you want, but to get a check in with yourself.
Hang on a second, a little bit more on that story, because it's kind of funny. Now the inside was absolutely amazing.
I mean, it was outdated.
It was bad, but we could just see once we took everything out and redid it, like we could really create the space that we wanted. But that one actually was also diesel. Yeah. So even in that situation, we had already decided at that point that we were going with gas. But when we went in and looked at this one, it was just the inside was so much where we could see the potential that we're like, okay, we'll test drive it. Well, so we're test driving it and it dies literally in the middle of the road. So we're like, oh, okay. And then we start it back up and we drive about another 1.5 miles. And while we're driving that 1.5 miles, we're like, oh, it was just a little hiccup. Maybe just a little hiccup. Maybe we'll still go with this. And then it died again. So on the second die, we were like, okay, this isn't going to work. But
yeah. Well, and I think it's important. Like, we left. We're like, and we were still even like, oh, maybe they'll fix it. Maybe they'll get a better deal because they'll fix it and we'll know what's wrong with it, blah, blah, blah. But so I think sometimes it's good to like get away from the dealership before you get too wound up and too excited, to step away and really analyze what's going on. But what's funny is that while we were driving kind of, different distances to test out and look at these different, pre-owned RVs, I was checking websites daily because you just never know what's going to come in. And it just so happened. Probably. But it just so happened that the dealership, an RV dealership right down the street from us, and it was the 2008 Tiffin Allegro.
Open road.
32 LA. Yes, it's a mouthful. It's one that was on my list, but the only thing is it didn't have a washer and dryer. So I was like, I don't know if we should go look at it. It doesn't have the washer and dryer. But we went and looked at it, and what's funny is the listing on the website, it didn't even show any photos of it. It was actually just listed. So we went down there, And
we asked him about it, and he's like, "Oh, that one hasn't even been cleaned up. We haven't even taken pictures. We haven't even been in there." And that's like, "Okay, we're fine. We'll go just take a look."
Yeah, he's like, it's in the back somewhere. You guys can go look at it if you want. And I think it's unlocked. And we're like, all right, cool. So we like walked back there, and we like opened and the door was unlocked. So it was really exciting. And the slides were in, you know, and it was in really good condition for not being cleaned. I mean, it was like pristine. I thought you could tell that the owner took care of it. And even with the slides in, we were just super, super excited. We actually found all the manuals, everything. The owner had kept everything in there, and we were like, all right. And I'm like, oh, it doesn't have a washer and dryer. I don't know. And Eric's like, I will do the laundry. And I'm like, sold. Like, all right. But
and then during the renovation process, after I had committed to doing the laundry,
he didn't know we were gonna be on the road for 3 years.
Yeah, so I'm like, okay, I can fit a washer and dryer in here.
Yeah.
And we had a plan for a spot, but
That's true.
It was about 1/2 inch. Every washer and dryer we found was 1/2 inch too big to fit in the spot we wanted.
And then at that point, it was like after like a year, we're like, you know what? We're so used to it. It's really not that big of a deal.
It's not that bad doing laundry
really
to laundry.
And I do the laundry too, so I'm just saying. I mean, you do it mostly, but I do it too. I would rather do the laundry and you put the laundry away, though. Like, putting it away is the sucky part.
The battles of everyday life. Yeah. But anyway, so the thing is while we had this big list of stuff that we had to have, right, a lot of the stuff just kind of went by the wayside. And I think as you go through it, I think it's great to create this list and these things that you want. That way, as you're going in, you can really
prioritize.
And you really decide over time as you look at, 100 different units and you're like, none of these check every box. You eventually start to say, okay, well, maybe we don't need this. Maybe we don't need that. Maybe, and you really decide what's important. So that's kind of what we did. And to be honest, the way that this one worked out with it not even being in the system, we walked in the door and we were both like, oh my goodness, this is pretty much it. So then we had to go chase someone down and be like, hey, we want this one.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, we haven't even cleaned that yet.
Yeah, we actually didn't leave the dealership. Like I'm saying, oh, if you find one, leave and then come back. No, I was like, this is it. This is on my list. If everything checks out, this is what I want. And the price was great. And what was really funny actually about our specific RV is that we found out later that the mileage was actually in kilometers.
I think what had happened was it was in kilometers when they first read it that day that we were there. And when we came back to sign the paperwork, they actually switched it back over. And it was actually something like 10 to 15,000 miles less on the RV than we originally thought.
I think it was almost 20. I think we thought it had like 40,000 miles and it had like
48, I think,
and it had like 28 or something.
20,
and I mean, the price was still the same for the RVs. We're like, cool. But so that was pretty awesome. But anyways, now that we told you how we got to picking this RV, which we absolutely love, it's been amazing. Would we make the same decision today?
I think there's two different ways to kind of look at this, right? So if we were to go back to when we first started and we went through exactly what we went through before, absolutely. I would say without a doubt, I love our RV. I love what we've done to our RV. I love everything we've learned while being in the RV. So yes, if we were to do it again, I would definitely get a Class A and take the same approach. However, where we're at now, if we're moving forward, I think for me personally, I would like to branch out and maybe try a different route, such as a fifth wheel, something like that, because I'd really love to see kind of what we could do during a renovation process of doing a fifth wheel. And I really would like the experience of towing and seeing how the lifestyle flows with having, towing the trailer and then being able to drive off in the truck or whatever else.
Yeah. And I agree with that. I wouldn't change anything. I think that we were led to this decision because of the circumstances and what was going on, and I wouldn't change that. And Tiffin is awesome. Like, I think every time we've had an issue, we always call them. I mean, everyone always like praises Tiffin and says how amazing the customer service is, and I would agree with that. I think they've been great. My only thing is, I think moving forward, I would love to have a fifth wheel in the future, especially, as we have a family. I think it would be a lot more spacious. And I think just having the higher ceilings and renovating a fifth wheel seems really exciting to me. So I think in the future that might be something. I don't know if we'd ever get rid of this RV though. This is like our baby. But I think
I'm pretty sure even when the wheels ride off, I think we'll just have it in the backyard for the kids to have a playhouse or something. I say some weird stuff. Don't pay attention to that. Anyway, yeah, no, we really do love this RV and everything about it. And yeah, I wouldn't change a thing.
Yeah, so I think it really just boils down to, you know, figuring out what's best for you in this time of season of life and what you think that, you know, because you can think long term in it too. Like, is it something that you want to have long term? Is it something that you plan to maybe upgrade or downgrade later? I mean, that was something we kind of thought about. It was like, I thought 35 feet was good because we didn't really want to downsize necessarily. We might want, I don't know. I just felt like it was a good medium to kind of try out so that we can kind of figure out if we want something smaller or larger. I will say if you do want to go to a lot more state parks, getting something 25 feet or less is, especially if you're going to be on the West Coast, would make it a lot easier. Or if you're going to be doing a lot of wild camping or boondocking, something smaller is a lot easier to get into those spots. We knew that going into this, and, you know, we still got a 35 footer. Sometimes I kind of wish, you know, if we were 25 feet or less, it probably could have gone to some cooler spots. But even so, I'm really happy with our decision. That is why we chose our RV.
And that is why we are where we are right now.
Yeah.
But anyway, so now that we went through all that, if you guys do have any questions about kind of why we chose the RV or, you know, really anything, definitely feel free to ask us. But as for now, let's go ahead and dive into what we released on YouTube this month and the design vibes that we featured on the website.
Yep.
All right, so the projects we shared this past month on YouTube, in case you missed them, are first, how to clean reclaimed wood, which has become a big part of our lives since we work with reclaimed wood all the time. And then number 2 is how to change out your slide out molding with hand-hewn barnwood, which is an awesome project that we're really happy with, and especially considering we've wanted to do this since we first purchased our RV. And then the last one was kind of a from the farm peppermint oil update, where we kind of highlighted the fact that we were filming the whole distillation process of getting the mint from the field into the still and into a bottle. So definitely check that out if you missed it. But anyway, let's move on to the design vibes for this month.
The design vibes features from this past month are from Asphalt Gypsy, Chatfield Court, and Fifth Wheel Farmhouse.
So definitely get over to the website and check out those design vibes from this month. They're definitely awesome. But anyway, that about wraps it up for today's video. We really hope that it's been helpful for you and gave you a little bit of an insight into why we chose our RV, and hopefully it'll help you if you're looking to choose yours. But if you are looking for more information, we'll put a link in the description box that'll take you over to some more helpful tips if you are choosing your RV. And also, don't forget to check out the description box for the link to the Full-Time Freedom Week. It's going to be an amazing event where a whole bunch of RVers are going to be sharing great information. And if you're starting out or if you're already on the road, it can definitely provide some insight and some helpful tools for you. But anyway, thanks again for swinging by today. Don't forget to subscribe, and we'll see you guys again soon.